Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Podcast 17. This is coming to a bit of a conclusion. We are probably going to wrap up season 1 of the Blue Collar Workers around podcast 20, maybe 25. Me and Chris still have to talk it out. But as always, I'm John, Yahya, or Sean, depending on the fuck you're asking. My main man here is Chris. And we are going to dive straight in today because we've got a crap load to get on with. On my side, I've got rivals joining forces to save the steels in Scunthorpe and Thorpe. I've got a follow-on point for that on top of that point because the Tories directly sold the steel furnaces to the Chinese. Why are they complaining now? On Chris's side, we have...
UK's polluted water by the sewage causing health issues. I think that's a rather important one to delve into, because that is just disgusting. Why the fuck is our water bloody being contaminated? Also, very nice, lovely, controversial, sensitive subject, which I'm glad to delve into. The definition of a woman ruling being given after Scottish Government legal battle, which is actually
just finished
today upon recording.
The last 10 minutes, yeah. We were very happy to say that the Supreme Court has supported the rights of biological women. Okay?
But obviously we'll get into that in much more detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously Birmingham's obviously trash rubbish strike.
He pinched that one from me.
Yeah, I did pinch that. It was one I wanted to talk about anyway. But the fact that it turned in from strike to be an absolute scandal, and I'd love to discuss this because I think it's just disgusting.
Absolutely. So, I mean, admittedly, my main man here pinched my one involving the waste. So I moved over for Britain to reach and achieving a long-term countrywide growth and stability. I have mapped out and done research for that, as probably might get to it to the end of our last podcast. We will see. Like I said, we've got quite a few issues today. We're going to start with Chris, I think, this time, for make a change.
Yeah,
with the water waste. I think
water companies dumping sewage from points in their networks known as storm overflows, of which there are over 14,000 across England. Out of 10 most frequently used overflows, 5 were in Devon. Another was in neighbouring Cornwall, meaning 6 were in the region served by 7 West Waters. That's just disgusting.
I'm just going to touch base. This is the reason why I believe we should nationalise the entire water, power and train systems. They were originally built by the British people back in from the 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. And then the magnificent Margaret Thatcher, thank God that bitch is dead, and I'm genuinely honest about that, sold it all off. And can they continue to do that when we got all the way to John Major and then to David Cameron and Tony Blair? They just kept selling entire sections of our infrastructure off. We now need to accept the fact that we need to forcibly close these corporations who have illegally squandered our resources because they haven't invested in them. They keep talking about the water bills going up, They're going up because these fuckers refuse to invest. We need to renationalise all the waterworks, all of the electric works, all of the train works, everything we directly built as the British taxpayers' money.
There's talk of nationalising the steelworks.
Oh no, they're going to do that. Yeah. It's inevitable. Yeah. We'll get to that because that's a whole heap of a Chinese bag we'll open later into the podcast.
Obviously, with the water things, it's only come back into the news because obviously a woman who has left needing heart surgery after developing blood poisoning in one of hundreds to fall ill after swimming in the UK's polluted waterways. Sewage spills reached a decade high last year. Company groups Suffers Against Sewage, SAS, received 1,853 sickness reports through its service app in 2024, with 331 people having to see a doctor and 79% reporting that medical professionals have attributed their illness to sewage pollution. Hundreds were diagnosed with gastrotitis and chest infections and serious bacterial infections, with some having to be hospitalised. Overall, the report instances of sickness led to 9 years worth of sick days, which is estimated to have cost the economy $493 and $200,000. Fuck!
The entire board of those waterworks need to be fired. The whole fucking lot of them. The shareholders need to be told they're not getting any fucking money, and the waterworks, that one needs to be nationalised.
Yeah, as the SES annual water quality report revealed that the sewage was pumped into British waterways 592,478 times for 4.7 million hours last year, despite the shareholders of private water companies being paid 1.2 billion.
That's it. Fuck them. I said what I said. Fuck them. We nationalise it, we give the shareholders nothing. They get fuck all. They have directly fucked us multiple times, whether it's water, electric, rail, whether it's now British Steel, fuck them. Nationalise everything. I'm a Liberal Democrat saying that. Fucking nationalise everything.
The water industry has failed to hit its pollution regulation targets, recorded 2,418 spills in 24, more than double the target set by the Environmental Agency. They're just not giving a fucking flying shit.
No, because they know. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they know they can't fix the problem, so they're trying to cash as much as they can out of it before the Labour government is formed. And this Labour government is fucking useless. Absolutely fucking useless when it comes towards dealing with the problems of the people. This would-be Tony Blair Keir Starmer made 1,000 promises to you and got nothing. Nothing and no one. The man is rampantly fucking incompetent. And remember, Britain, I've got to save jobs. I've got to deal with the economy. He's dealing with nothing. Yeah? He has fixed nothing. Keir Starmer is absolutely fucking useless. Dead dog on arrival. Man made 1,000 promises and fucked them all.
Absolutely, yeah, that's literally it. But I'm just thinking, what the fuck? Just literally, what the fuck? If you can't even meet targets, then you're not in control of the fucking company. What's the point of it being privatised? Let's get it nationalised, get it back in our hands.
And more importantly, don't pay them for the fair wage.
No.
And the reason I make this argument is we should turn around and say that the reason we're not paying these shareholders is you've had decades to fix this, you've had £1 billion share payouts, and you have given nothing. I'll take that bit out. And you've been given nothing whatsoever towards the economical means of the British people's waterworks. You are there to make a profit from a fair trade. You have given not the fair trade. You have defaulted on your legal obligations. Fuck them. The shareholders get nothing when we take back the fucking industries. It's the only way you can deal with it.
I would have halved the shareholders' profit and then reinvested that half of it back into actually dealing with the situation.
These board members don't think like us, Chris. That's why we're working collar people, mate. They don't even think like us.
No, they think, money in my back pocket.
Just fucking unreal.
Yeah. Over to you.
Over to me.
Yeah.
Rivals join forces to save steel in Thorpe. Government officials and British Steel staff are in a desperate race to save its blast furnaces after what ministers believe was a plot to sabotage the Thorpe plant by its Chinese owners. A critical meeting is scheduled for Monday between the firm's staff and civil servants aiming at rescuing Britain's last primary steelmaking plant from permanent closure, costing thousands of jobs. Not just thousands of jobs. When these steelworks stop heating, when they cool down, it's almost impossible to restart them. So these blast furnaces have to be kept running at all times for the steel work to come through them. And yes, they lose about £700,000, I think it's a day, I think is what it is. Irrelevant. The British government should never have sold this. And remember, the fucking goddamn Boris Johnson's crews sold this for 50 to 70 million. Okay? It was originally sold to a previous company that then had a Chinese company show interest during Boris Johnson's time and was given permission to. So what fucking irritates me, is I've got a two-link to this, is that the fact that the Tories knew the sale was going to China and now the bastards have the right to fucking moan about it. No, you don't. Okay? This sale was inherited by the Labour government, and I am very critical of the Labour government and the Labour elite. I really am. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let you Tories get away with this shit, because you sold that fucking plant. You allowed the business group to move it to the Chinese businessman when it was forced to go into resale. The government drastically took control of the company on Saturday, kicking off a frantic hunt for the securest essential raw materials, including cooking coke and iron ore, needed to keep the two blast furnaces at Scunthorpe plant operational. Once the furnaces
clean up the mess of previous fucking bad decisions. Yet again, this seems to be a recurring problem, Britain.
And more importantly, as we have said before, this is a fucking 14-year failure of the Tories. Concrete evidence of Tory failure. Again and again and again. They sold it to the Chinese between 50 to 70 million. Once the furnaces are turned off, it's practically impossible to bring them back online. And officials believe British Steel Chinese owner 𝐮𝐻𝐫𝐽 had been planning to let the raw materials run out in a bid to sabotage the plant, shuttering the blast furnaces and making UK reliant on Chinese exports of so-called virgin steel, as in newly made steel, instead of the recycled steel that we Britons use, because we're melting down our own cars, we're melting down our own vehicles and recycling the steel in a more greener environment.
No, that's what you should do. If you got the stuff available, it just needs to be remelted and repurposed. Do that. Why do we need new shit when we've got plenty of old shit to use?
𝐿𝐻𝐫𝐿, executive director of the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, warned that it is an explicit strategy of the Chinese Communist Party to undermine the industrial bases of foreign countries. This man is a fucking Tory. I cannot stress this enough. This man is a Tory. Your party, Mr. Luke, directly did this. Now, hypothetically speaking, I might have got my research wrong, and if I have, Luke, if you are a Labour member, my apologies. But I suspect, and I really do, that Luke Pulford is the Executive Director of Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, is a Tory. You're a Conservative, your 14 years of failure led us to where we are today. If I'm wrong, I apologise now. But from the research I've done, I believe the man is a Tory. On Sunday, Business Secretary Jonathan Raymonds said Chinese firms should be barred from investing in some sectors, including those vital to national security and key infrastructure. If you knew this was a fucking problem, why were they allowed to buy it in the first place, Labour? Because this is a minister. This is directly the Business Secretary. If you knew this, why didn't you raise this conversation with your boy Ed Miliband getting nice and cosy with the fucking Chinese right now? If this was an issue, why wasn't it raised when you were in opposition? These are my fucking problems. Because one side doesn't speak about its own incompetence when everything's going good. Oh, these are concerns. Are they? Are they really concerns? Or are they only concerns because it's now on the surface for you? The level of incompetence we have on this two-party state we live in Britain is fucking unreal. Unreal.
Should be challenging each other, not letting the other one go and fuck everything up then.
We made 70 million selling steel to the Chinese. Bravo, says the Labour side. Well done, keep the steel works open, get a good Chinese company. There are no good companies. Everybody has a national interest. Britain has national interests. Nobody is innocent on a political level. People need to realise this. And it does, it boggles my brain. It deeply fucking irritates me that British people will continue to do this and ignore these situations and these problems. It's mind-boggling. Stop taking the point that the opposition didn't know that this sale was going on when Boris Johnson was in power. Boris Johnson couldn't take a shit without people attacking him. I'm one of them. Let's be quite fair about it. The man was the most incompetent fucker since Neville Chamberlain. Unquestionably the most incompetent Prime Minister in our lifetime. Neville Chamberlain being old, long before me and Chris were born. But unquestionably, Boris Johnson is the single greatest problem we have had in the British political establishment in the last 40 years. The amount of fucking problems he has left in his wake is unreal. He is literally a gimp version of the orange cunt across the Atlantic. I said what I said. He's like a little gimp version of the orange man. Like, just beyond fucking incompetent.
Mini Trump.
Beyond incompetent. Want me to carry on my next one?
No, we'll go on to this one. I'm looking forward to this one because it's about time this has been said. Definition of a woman ruling to be given after Scottish Government legal battle. Obviously, there's been updates as I've been researching this.
Literally within the last 25-30 minutes of us recording this, we have heard the Supreme Court has stated irrevocably. Go on.
Definition of ruling to be given after Scottish Government legal battle. This is obviously, it's 2 minutes ago, it's been updated. The verdict on how women should be defined in law is set to be announced this morning by the UK Supreme Court. The judgment will come after long ruling legal battle between the Scottish Government, who argues that transgender people with a gender recognition certificate, a GRC, are entitled to sex-based protections for women. Scotland, who believe that it should only appeal to those who are born female. So basically, if you're biologically female, that is the only people that it should be applied to.
And the Supreme Court in the UK has just upheld that.
Yeah, and they've ruled that, which is absolutely fantastic. I believe that is a step in maintaining women's rights, which even surprised I was actually be doing this.
Let's get somewhere here about this. Some of the most powerful judges in this country are women.
Yeah, I was just about to follow up on this. This isn't based on a board of purely male Supreme judges. This board is
led by
mostly females. I think there's only 3 male Supreme judges on there, which are on the lower end, so they're juniors, and the rest are all senior, and they have all stuck their foot down, saying the definition of a woman is biological sex born. So that means what you're born at birth determines that you're a woman, a female, which also clarifies the fact that you are able to give birth to a child biologically, which I think is about time that got stamped down, because all this woke transgender absolute bullshit needs to be put an end to. I can understand if you have think that you may be a female. If you want to be a woman, cool.
Yeah, if and everything else. If you want to be a man, cool. If you want to change that gender as an adult, knock yourself out. We ain't got a problem with that.
A report that make this a statement as an adult.
As an adult, that's a very important fact.
Over 18 years of age. That's 21, is it? 21.
For the mental capacity, it's 21.
For the legal standpoint, they say 18. For mental standpoint, over 21. Anything before then, it is being coerced, pushed upon, influenced to the younger generation, which is absolutely disgustingly wrong. They need to find their own path and do it on their own terms, and you should be supporting that path, not influencing it. This is one key factor I think is being missed time and time again when it involves the youth, is whether it's being coerced, influenced, instead of them finding it on their own.
Chris, one of the things is that no one's willing to take on the bear that is the education problem. You see, this is much of these British problems that we're suffering are coming from psychologists who have run away from this now. Female psychologists who have acted like they are the gurus and the understanders of biological sex, have made all of these spewed opinions that personality and feelings matter, and then completely cut the biologist out of the conversation, have then reinforced this via education systems in youth and junior children. And this has to be cut out. Yeah. We now have to acknowledge we have a cancerous organisation inside the British education system that needs to be exercised.
Yeah. The fact that they're letting teachers that believe in this stuff force their opinions upon children, because I've heard stories of kids being silenced.
Not even fucking stories, mate. There's cases.
The cases where teachers are forcing that opinion upon kids, which don't necessarily believe that way and still trying to find their own way.
From the Muslim community, of course. We're the ones standing up against this garbage.
From every community, not just Muslims.
Fuck off. Yeah. Everyone you see inside the press is my sisters, my beautiful young sisters, standing on the firmest. That's bullshit. And they're saying
others voicing their opinion, but the ones that are actually kicking the door down are your community. Let's get that right. Yeah.
The Muslims are not having none of this.
I'm sorry to say it, but it's about time the woke community had a wake-up call and realised that they cannot push their ideologies onto the younger generation or anybody else without a backlash. You're spouting toxic masculinity when you're portraying toxic views yourself.
Absolutely.
That is a double standard, hypocrisy. You need to be kicked out the fucking door. I don't care. The fact that the Supreme Court has now ruled in favour of human and women rights means you've got to kick in whatever the fuck you think you got. And to be quite honest, you need to be turned around and kicked out the fucking door.
Especially outside education.
Especially outside education. You should have no fucking legal standpoint in the educational system.
Fundamentally stands that there should be nothing. The argument that Muslims teach their children Islam. You could have that argument. You could sit there and argue with us. No ideology should be taught to underage children, say under the age. We Muslims wouldn't have a problem with that. But then your woke agenda has to go. Your trans agenda has to go. All kind of forms of corrupt of philosophical points of view have to go. So you could theoretically, I'm liberal. Some of my Muslim brothers and sisters are going to disagree with me. Alhamdulillah, we accept that. But you could have that argument if you're willing to include everything. But you're not. You don't want us teaching our children about our values and our weights, but yet you still expect yours to be. I
still think religion is an important fact and can determine how a person grows up. And obviously if it's taught in schools, the way it was taught to me in school was through religious education.
It's almost non-existent in today's schools.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, I think was on the way out his door, and that was when I was at school.
Yeah.
Which I think is absolutely disgusting, because the fact you need to learn every part
I absolutely believe that RE should be recovered in favour of the fact that we now have a failed education system that is making crumbling children. I mean, the Gen Zers and the generation behind them are being made incredibly brittle because they're not being taught how to be robust. They're not being educated in becoming firmer. They're not being allowed to make mistakes as children, because you get things like participation trophies for everything now. Not so much here in UK, but in generally the Western world, that's considered a normal thing. No, fuck no. If you've lost, you lost. You learn by your mistakes. You learn by your critical failures.
I think it's transitions also into the fact of men transitioning into women and then trying to participate in women's sports. Absolutely fucking not. I'm sorry.
That's being stamped on.
It's being stamped on. It needs to be stamped on harder, and it needs to be kicked out the fucking door. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why there's two sports. It's because of the fact each person's biologically different. Men are naturally stronger because that's the way it's just been.
It's DNA.
Women,
it's not our opinion. Yeah. It's built on how we're
based on biology. Yeah, simple, straight up facts. Men are naturally stronger than women. Regardless of what you say, there'll be ones that'll be like, I'm stronger. That's fine.
And on an individual level, we're talking a racial level here.
Yeah.
Not from an individual. You can get bodybuilding muscle mummies, I think they're called online.
You could get women which are stronger.
Absolutely built. They would slap the shit out of both of us. The problem being is, if an equal male to her, there's no competition.
I was literally just about to say, mine in this fitness level, we went up against a woman bodybuilder. Yes, we would have our asses handed to us, but not without giving a fair fight. She would struggle to take me and him down. That is on basic biology. If me and him turned around and went and trained on the same level as what she was, no chance. Not a chance.
No, of course not. Because, we have an age modifier. You see, most of these bodybuilders are between 20 and 30.
So if we reached peak physique at our age, we would stop
them. Strong, definitely. I think because we underestimate how age...
We'd get injured quicker, I'm not going to lie. We would definitely be walking out with injuries, but I think we would still be victorious.
But the reality you have to understand is that biological sex is now returning to its status, that it is.
It's the status that shouldn't have been questioned anyway.
This is psychologists.
Yeah, it's delusion, pure, absolute delusion. Yeah.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, but you need to understand what you're capable of biologically yourself before you can even step into any other territory. And the fact that you're trying to step into territory which you don't know your own is delusion.
Army sent to clean up rubbish in Birmingham City. Officer-based military specialists have been called in to deal with mounting piles of rubbish on the streets of Birmingham after a month-long strike by refuge workers. Tens of thousands of tonnes of rubbish have gone uncollected, and Birmingham City Council has declared a major incident and issued a public health warning since there's an all-out strike by United union members beginning on the 11th of March. The council had already appealed to neighbouring authorities for assistance, but the government has now asked for help from the British Army in tackling this crisis. This will involve some of the military officers-based planners being called in to provide logistic and administration assistance for a short period. It will not involve deploying soldiers collecting bins. Government spokesperson said the government has already provided a number of staff to support the council with logistics and making sure that response on the ground is swift to address the associated public health risks. In light of the ongoing public health risks, a small number of officers-based military personnel with operational planning experiences have been made available to the Birmingham City Council for further support in the area. Now, this is a double-edged knife here. The deal that the Birmingham Council and the British government, rather in the shadows of this, offered back was a pay cut. Let me be very, very clear. It was a pay cut to the binman. And I'm very, very supportive on the fact that no one should be fucking getting a pay cut for doing a dirty job.
It should be a pay increase, even if it's
only a small one. They should be a pay increase. They haven't. When the mathematics is done, involving dozens and dozens of probably, I think there's over 100 roles, and might be liquidated because of something being cut out, has led towards the conclusion that it led to these bin strikes.
I can understand the concept of the bin strikes, but how it has been executed is
again, and I agree with what Chris is saying. So like I said, I started this conversation with they're not going to want a pay cut. The government is playing with fire, thinking that any union is going to accept a pay cut. Even in this financial crisis, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, they're all giving pay rises. They're not big ones. You know what I'm saying?
Even the company I work for has been giving me a pay rise.
They're not big. No one's getting a big pay rise.
No, it's not big, but it's enough to keep going.
If the government of Birmingham is genuinely thinking that the Birmingham binmen are going to take a pay cut, they're fucking in Lululand. Yes, what they've done what the binmen are doing is leading to people being in danger. Rats are dying, cats are dying. You know, the disease is rampant.
The rats are apparently being reported the size of domestic cats.
Yeah, the rat traps are not working. The trash is causing health issues. There's no the handling. United has fucked the handling of it. Absolutely.
Honestly, we should have this has come from me researching everything else and using influencers examples of what they should have done. They should have took a page out of France's book and gone on a sort of semi-strike where they still collected rubbish, but then dumped it outside the council buildings. Yeah, that is what I call sending a message without sticking your foot in your mouth and pissing off the people you're supposed to be helping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's be fair about this. The reasons for the strike are just. With the blue collar workers
sound reasons. Poor execution.
Yeah, absolutely. United, you fucked that one up. You genuinely did. But I also believe the government has provoked this because Birmingham Council is in financial destitution. They are very, very financially
This is the second biggest city and they can't even sort their own financial books out. What the fuck are you playing at?
Because the government doesn't give them enough money. Let's be quite fair. Remember, each of these councils are given a budget on what they're allowed to spend and what they're allowed to raise. And quite honestly, the British political elite have fucked Birmingham multiple times. So this is a knock-on effect of poor management. Massive poor management.
It should have been dealt with hell of a lot better. Not just from, obviously, the people who want to strike. I reckon you planned the wrong thing. I'm sorry. It has to be said. You planned the wrong way about it. If you literally just maybe sat down and took a couple more ideas and then thought, how can we get what we want
without endangering the city,
without endangering the lives that we're helping and causing health issues. I'm sorry, your standpoint on getting a rise is just been wiped out.
No, I stand by this. It's not even a raise, pay cut, Chris. Let's put we need to put this in there. No working man is going to want to take a pay cut, but you've now left 17,000 tons of rubbish
on the streets
of fucking Birmingham,
and they've had to call in military experts to deal with logistics, which is another bit, which is basically that potential where you could have maintained your pay and potentially increased it. It's now just gone on to people that had to now help clean up your mess. You've shot yourself in the foot.
The dispute is over plans to scrap the higher paid waste recycling and collection officer role from the council fleets, which the council claims risks creating a huge future equality pay liability. You see, the council's trying to legally protect their arse whilst giving hundreds of workers pay cuts. You're going to cause a fucking problem. You should have negotiated this better. This should have been sat down with union bosses earlier. Now, I don't like union bosses.
Sat down with union bosses from the get-go to avoid this.
Yeah. But 17,000 tonnes, I'm going to speak quite honestly, is too much. You should have got to about 10,000, come back, cleared that, then let it carry on. So it's a lingering subject, but not a health risk. And that's where you fucked up. So I mean, you could have kept your protest. Come back, cleared a bit, gone away. Come back, cleared a bit, gone away. Make sure you're not creating a health risk, because that's what you're doing, and that's why you're alienating us, the rest of the British public.
The people that would support you on making sure that you get a pay cut, you now turn around and just pushing this to the curb instead of actually getting us on board with you. You've just ruined it. Absolutely ruined it.
I'm personally quite irritated by the fact that we've needed to bring army planners and bring in the military assets to deal with this problem. And the fact that other unions, because the United represents all the binmen in the country, so this could blow up even further, Chris. This could go into a national strike. And they threatened it as much, because they know that if Birmingham is allowed to do this, to liquidate these jobs and basically make redundant and make poorer hundreds and hundreds of binmen, other councils will do the same. Because the councils are squeezed because central government is not giving them enough money. This comes to, you voted for a Labour government to fix the problems of 14 years of Tory failure, and you just voted for a centralist or art centralist who will not restructure the British political system to fix the fucking problem. And that is what you need. You can't do business as usual. A rather famous online economist, Gary Goldman or Galderman, something like that. I see him on TikTok and YouTube quite a bit. Gary's Economical Corner is something like this. He mentions the game is rigged, and the British establishment on both sides, the left and the right, theoretical left and right, still playing by the old rules that don't exist. You see, the system does not work. You need to restructure both the political and economical system in the UK, regardless what the billionaires say. And this is coming from a man who used to make millions in the London Stock Exchange. So realistically, we know the old system is broken, it doesn't work, Labour are still trying to weld themselves to it. The Tories, they're sold. Their soul is gone. They don't work for us anymore. You need to get... So the two main parties are fucked. We need a different approach, and we don't need the nationalist nutcase, Nigel Farage, and all of his fanboys screaming, get rid of the migrants! You get rid of the migrants, you will sink the industrial capacity of this country. I am telling you, nationalists, right now, you get rid of the migrants, you will fuck your country. Worse than... If this is bad now, think about what happens when all the low-paid migrants leave the country. Okay? You and your granddad are not going to get up and start taking bins in the morning. You and your granddad and all the older grey-haired motherfuckers running around this country are not going to get up and change the shitty nappies, continent pads if you like to be politically correct, of the care workers. Okay? You are going to see a degradation of British society in real time at the expulsion of large quantities of the current migrant problems. Yes, we have legal migration issues. Yes, they can be addressed. No, they cannot be addressed by someone like Nigel Farage, who is a hate-mongerer, at best. The man has no interest except being Prime Minister. He's another Boris Johnson, a populist, and a dangerous populist at that.
Migration just needs to be controlled.
Yes, it does.
Got rid of.
Yes,
yeah.
you need to have a better idea on how you're going to control it. The legal migration is the bigger problem than the actual... The illegal migration is not as big as people think it is. The legal migration is our massive problem. University grants, yeah? Legal rights to work in the UK by multiple sections of the industries that no one talks about. No, you don't hear the press talking about this. Ignore the illegal migration. That's on every fucking newspaper.
The legal migration could be simply solved by coming, bringing France back to the table, which I think they're in talks of doing, and sorting out a proper.
No, that's the illegal one. I'm talking about legal migration.
The legal one could be solved just by speaking to France. Yeah, simple as, and your neighbouring countries of the EU. The legal migration needs to be addressed.
Physically get to address, and then it needs to be resolved because it is a serious problem in the UK.
The system needs to be relooked at and turned around.
The whole political economical model that Britain runs right now does not work. It does not work for you or me or anyone under £1 billion whatsoever.
Under £1 billion.
Under £1 billion.
No, £1 billion.
There's no way. There's multi-millionaires leaving the country.
The fact that you could turn around and earn £1 million job and it still doesn't work in your favour.
At the country, you'll be financially okay.
Speaks volumes.
But the country doesn't work for anyone under £1 billion, I think, is what this Gary.
The fact that it's now raised to the fact that you need to earn £1 billion for the country to work for you now is absolute disgusting. I remember when it used to be a case of you reach £1 million bracket and everything starts getting easier for you. Now it's £1 billion.
No. Let's not be clear. If me and you were making £1 million as podcasters, we would have a better life.
We would have a better life, but it doesn't mean that it won't be a stress-free life.
It wouldn't be stress-free because there's so much more that comes into it. You get millionaire problems. Don't get me wrong. I want those millionaire problems. I want them problems.
We'll be telling everyone how to become it and work tax systems to our favour.
Absolutely. We've said that before in other podcasts. But let's be brutal here, Britain, yeah? The problem with the waste is tied into the political system you are continuously running. The system does not work for any of you. I'd say anybody under £1 million. Like if you're earning £1 million a year, the system's probably work. I think £1 billion is probably be exaggerated.
Yeah.
If you're under £1 million, even 800 grand, you are still struggling. Because if you're making 800 grand, you're probably in one of the big cities, and you're going to have those big city problems. So if you're making 800 grand a year, you're going to have London problems. You're going to have Birmingham problems. You're going to have Liverpool kind of problems. And those are still problems that 800 grand earners are going to have. You need to be over the million bracket for it no longer to be a massive problem for you. And having all kinds of tax breaks, because that's the only way you climb your way to the billions. Moving on. Chris, I
was going to say, you've literally spoke about it, the Binman tax waste.
Did. Tories directly sold the steel furnaces to the Chinese. Why are they complaining? This is a follow-on from the steelworks. In April 2016, when David Cameron was Prime Minister and Mr Johnson was only still the Mayor of London, Tate Steel agreed a deal to sell its long production European business to Greybull Capital. The long production European business included, among other things, the 𝐶𝐿 steel plant. The sale was for a nominal consideration. I think that's about roughly about £1 of what they had. And the long production European business, the nominal consideration, it was about £1. 3 years later, in May 2019, the business that Greybull had bought, now known as British Steel Limited, was ordered into compulsory liquidation by the High Court. So it was ordered into compulsory liquidation. Following that, parts of British Steel Limited, including the 𝐶𝐿 plant, were bought by 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 Steel in November 2019. This was during the premiership of that useless cunt, Boris Johnson. A man who has fucked our country multiple times. A man whose name should go down synonymously with Neville Chamberlain as one of the worst prime ministers Britain has ever had under any circumstances. The value deal was not announced, but there was conflicting reports that it was a 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 paper to range between 50 to 70 million for the steel plant. If you Tories are so angry about what's happened with the steel plant now by the Chinese industries, why? Why are you angry? You fucking sold the plants to them. The High Court ordered the liquidation and the sale was done under Prime Minister Boris Johnson. If this was such a critical industry, why wasn't a complaint made then? Oh, because you were getting money.
Yeah.
You were getting money.
It is purely profit-based.
Absolutely.
Pure profit-based.
Without reservation. For Britain, the UK, to achieve long-term countrywide growth and stability, it needs a solid, strategic, balanced economical strength, social well-beings, and a resilient to global shifts. I have done quite a bit of research onto this recently, and because I talk, I don't just smack the current two parties because that's popular. Let's be fair about it. It's easy to do that.
But they need to be smacked.
Yeah, they do. We need a high-speed rail system across the entire UK, not just one way from the north to the south. We need a high rail system to connect all parts of Britain. That's going to cost money. Let's bring the Japanese in on that. Let's be frank about it. They do trains really fucking well.
You can't really argue with all the high-speed railway. So when
the Chinese conductors apologise if they arrive more than a minute late.
You'd be lucky if you get that if they arrive half hour late in the UK.
Do you understand what I'm saying? We need Japanese-style planners to come in, fix our rail system, give us a bill, and we pay them over time. Yeah? We pay them out of the governmental pot. We just get the Japanese...
That's have to be nationalised, the rail
Absolutely.
service, by the way.
We've already nationalised it.
Yeah.
We bring the Japanese in, the Japanese companies, we tell them, please fix this, and then bill us. Just fix it. That's how you solve the problem. You bring the best fucking goddamn rail people in the world, and the Japanese have unquestionable ability to fix our rail system. They know how to do it. Even if it costs billions, you spend it. You get the Japanese to bring in their experts, bring in their engineers, if you have to, you shift 100,000 fucking people to fix the rail system. That's point one. We fix our entire rail system. We also fix our digital infrastructure, expand our broadband, expand 5G's access without the Chinese. I'm sorry, they've burnt the fucking bridges as far as I'm concerned. With this business with the 𝐶𝐿, there's no way I'd let a Chinese business invest in the UK right now. You?
No.
No.
The fact that we're here to do the good, but who's good?
Yeah. No, I fundamentally come to the conclusion now that the Chinese have not got the British people's best interest at heart. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to slag the Chinese off. I think they do a brilliant work job for their people. They really do.
They're good to trade with and everything else. Yeah. But when it comes towards nationally important assets, we should not be negotiating with any foreign country when it comes towards the permanent procedure. Do you know what I'm saying? We'll trade with you on them, but when your involvement comes, it should be none.
No, exactly. So, like I say, with the idea of the Japanese, you bring them over, they build the system, and then they withdraw. They're being employed to build the system.
You basically bring them in, say, I will pay you to build us a better system, but that's as far as your influence goes. We'll then take control after.
And let's be fair, the Japanese can be trusted.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about this. The Chinese, at this point, have lost that trust. So with the digital infrastructure, we definitely need to build at home. We need to develop, and I think there are some French and German companies that we could probably hire for that as well.
Yeah.
Green investments, accelerated transition to renewable energy, offshore winds, more nuclear reactors. I'm sick and tired of people saying this. We need more nuclear reactors. We only have, I think, 1 or 2 of them left in the entire country.
It's the one off the 7 still going?
Yeah, just.
Yeah. I would say we need major investment in that one, because I reckon that can sustain
we need nuclear
a
reactors.
lot more power than what it's actually
Absolutely.
given out.
The European nuclear reactors are some of the safest nuclear reactors. Supplying plutonium is going to be difficult because of all the problems going on in Africa right now, but I think that a deal can be made for that. Let's be fair about this. We need to get off petrol and coal-driven systems, because that's what Britain... Much of our infrastructure is still based on that, which is quite... And gas. And we don't have gas reserves. That's another thing I want to mention. We need to rebuild our gas supply reserve systems, which allows us to store gas when it's cheap. Buy bulk when it's cheap. And then when we have a crisis, we've got some stocked up.
Oh, no, so there used to be a couple in Gloucester and they've gone.
No, the whole storage infrastructure's disappeared.
I remember literally being in Gloucester, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a gas reserve, because it used to fluctuate. The tank used to go up and down all the time.
Revamping the education and skill system. Future ready education, emphasise digital literacy, AI, green tech and trade, vocation training for adults into the market now. This is literally one of the things I was researching. One of the biggest things about the sensible education side, people, is that we need to retrain our adult population. It's going to be expensive, but it needs to be done, because people who are young, like in their 20s to 30s now, are not equipped for the massively changing world. We are leaving globalism. There's nothing we can do about that. The global market system that we have relied on during mine and Chris's life has collapsed.
It's gone.
Donald Trump has basically destroyed it.
America's killed it.
It doesn't matter that it's slowly going downhill. It is going downhill. We can see...
The fact it's still going downhill says that is failure.
Yeah. The Americans have made the system extremely difficult for us to continually robustly stand by it. They really have. And this has made us very reluctant to sit there. And we need to start building more internal infrastructure. British-made cars, British-made power systems, British-made infrastructure. It needs to come from us. We can buy our supplies, we can get the experts in, but we need to directly control it.
We need to buy back our the traditional British car companies back off the foreign investors.
Support innovation and domestic industries. Tech and R&D investments positions the UK as the leader in biotech, AI, quantum computing and green technology. We don't spend enough money, in my opinion, as a people and a government, in these things that will become critical for the next 100 years. And they are absolutely necessary.
I like the fact that if you was to buy a house now, most new builds are actually building solar panels into the building.
Well, yeah, of course, that's standard. But to be fair, we don't. We have so little in terms of house building numbers in the UK. The Prime Minister is never going to hit his 1.5 because he's not taking it seriously enough.
But that's a step in the right direction for a green, safer future.
Absolutely.
The fact that the houses naturally provide energy to the national grid for the ones that haven't quite got stepped up into that belt yet. But the fact that it's starting to become self-sustaining. Yeah, this is the thing which is going to piss off the corporate elite. I don't give a shit. It's called the house needs to be self-sustaining for it to be possible for us to continue in the economy growth that is going on.
Not just economic growth, the environmental growth. Remember, we are dealing with global
economy and environmental and everything else. That does, unfortunately, to some of you green activists, that does mean we're going to need to build on the green belt and all to sustain housing.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
The British people have too many people as a nation. And like I said, I've had this argument in previous podcasts.
Yeah.
You magically wave a wand, a Harry Potter wand, and you vanish all of the ethnic minorities. You still don't have enough houses for the white population. The Welsh, the English, the Scottish, you just don't have it.
And the fact that, as we said, you can fit the entire population into fucking Cornwall.
Because of how much urbanisation we don't have with the rest of the country. Manufacturing hubs. We need to boost local productions in key sectors like automotive, pharmaceutical and defence. Those are the 3 leading industries here in the UK nowadays. We need to double down on actually reinforcing those industries.
That's standard. Pharmaceutical, the health of your own people.
Defence is self-explanatory.
Defending, obviously, yourself against foreign nations in case you're discerned to be idiots. And obviously, main thing is cars. So,
yeah.
One of the main sources of travel these days.
When I was doing this research and I saw trade and globalised partnerships, I don't think that's going to be a big thing anymore. I think we're going to be relying less and less on globalisation.
It'll be a part, but it won't be the major.
It won't be the central product. So one of the things I was doing, as I was also doing quite a bit of research on trade and global partners, we need to return to the EU. We do not have the ability to stand on our own. Blocks are forming. America is withdrawing. Russia's getting more violent. China has just tried to fuck our steel. There is no justifiable reason why we shouldn't be part of Europe. Britain, you are not the superpower of the 1960s, or the failing superpower of the 1960s.
So nothing saying we can't get back there, but it does
you're not even
work.
The ailing power of when we were children in the 1980s, when you could fly an aircraft carrier group over to the Falklands and smack a third world country around the face. We can't do that today. We genuinely can't. Our country does not have the infrastructure, financial means. Not do we have the defence mechanism? Absolutely we do. We can't afford to send shit to fucking Argentina today. The country is literally clutching the purse strings. That's how financially bad it is. There is a massive regional inequality here in the UK. The country is massively welded to the south of England, and we need to structurally change that. The idea that the levelling up strategy was something that Boris Johnson, I hate crediting that troglodyteous little gimpoid of the Orange Man. Sorry to make you laugh, Chris. But the levelling up strategy was brilliant, and I don't think he thought it up. I think one of his aides thought it up and he latched on it. It is a critical thing we need to do across the UK, both in the north, in Scotland, in Wales.
Especially up in the north. As soon as you go past Birmingham,
there's nothing.
Just damn.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Even the cost of, you could literally, the cost of a house down south compared to up north, the bracket is stupid.
Yeah. The NHS needs reform. We need to realise that. And one of the good things I'll give Stemmer for, getting rid of NHS England was a brilliant move, in my opinion. It has freed up money. It will make the waiting lists go down. All the metric that I'm told by friends I've got in the nursing world is we are on the right path. There are plenty of pit holes that can come across there, but we seem to be going in the right direction with the NHS.
Finally going in the right direction in order to solve everything.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is a massive problem here in the UK. We are incredibly vulnerable, and it is one of our things we realistically need.
We definitely need to
invest in. Not only invest in, but to build cybersecurity companies that are robust and defensive enough to protect both our banks, our online media. Personal data is something that people are, like the British Parliament was talking about selling Britain's AI for AI startup industries. That's morally bankrupt. Yeah, there is no way that the British government should change the what was the law? The copyright laws that allow AI companies to poach our intellectual material. Categorically, fucking morally bankrupt, without any reservations. In fact, it's disgusting, beyond disgusting. I believe I've come to the end of this podcast today. Have you got anything to add, Chris?
No,
I think I'm actually surprised.
We've covered some rather major, controversial and important topics.
Absolutely, we have. As always, thank you to everyone who gets to the end of here. We deeply appreciate it. I am Sean, Yahya, or John, depending on who the fuck you're asking.
I am Chris. Hope you have a smashing day.
And we wish you the best. And as always, your voice, your nation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Lovely speaking to you.